What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with Howard Bender, bringing you the Week 16 FA Sports Talk DFS preview. Howard, the season is almost over, but we have another full slate to go over today.
We do have a lot to go over today. We're not going to be talking about the showdown slate on Friday. That's Minnesota, New Orleans, but we can sit here. I built the DFS watch list this week to include both Saturday and Sunday games. Saturday will have its own separate 3-game playbook. Sunday will have its own main slate playbook. The Friday on Christmas Day, your Saturday playbook will come out, and then Saturday morning your Sunday playbook will come out as usually scheduled.
Yeah, and we'll have the showdown playbook written up for everybody as well. Anyway, so it won't be your typical playbook format, but we do the write-ups for the single games anyway. So we'll have all that for everybody. But Howard, let's not waste any time because we have a lot to go over today. The cover of your watch list this week, of course, is Jalen Hurts. He's been the fantasy darling of everybody since he has started. And this week, he gets that matchup against the Dallas Cowboys that everybody is going to certainly be looking to play. Price point wise, we see him pretty expensive, $7,000 on DraftKings, $8,200 on FanDuel. My question to you is he a core play for your lineups this week? You see cash game and GPP. Is there any way that he is not, a hit in this matchup?
It's really hard to not have him as a cash game play. He is running, and that's one of the things that we've talked about over and over again. These mobile quarterbacks, Kyler Murray started running again this past week. So, you got to put Hurts in that realm. Now, he's not a 100-yard rusher typically. He did that the first game. Second game, he rushed for about half that. So, I think that because it's Dallas, you're still going to have, a lot of read option work there between him and Miles Sanders. There's no Leighton Vander Esch for the Cowboys right now. They do struggle against mobile QBs. So I feel like Hurts has really just moved himself into a spot where you can use him. I mean, if you want to pay up for him, then I think that's totally fine. He's, I'm looking at DK right now. Watson, Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, these guys are all, viable, great players to use.
Right.
If you want to use Jalen Hurts, I think that you can get away with using him in a cash game, especially if you're going to want to try and do things like getting Travis Kelce into your lineup or, some of these other, Derrick Henry. He's the night game, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, he's not. We're fortunate to not have to deal with Derrick Henry on the main slate this weekend because that's just a lot of fantasy points and usually a very high price tag that we'd be forced to pay. The one thing you mentioned, Dallas does struggle with mobile quarterback. We saw Lamar Jackson, 94 yards and a score on the ground against them. They're going to be running, a lot here. That's sort of the way the offense goes with Hurts. And people have sort of been down a little bit on Hurts because of his, completion percentage. 2 games now, under 60% completion, but he's making up for it. He's not throwing efficiently because he's only throwing downfield. He's finding throwing touchdowns, and he's not really turning the ball over. Which is a plus. So I like Hurts a lot, especially DraftKings at $7K price point. We find him as I think it's like the 6th highest priced quarterback on the slate. He fits in nicely there. What are your feelings? You mentioned Kelce already. What's your feelings for paying up for these Chiefs? They're home against Atlanta. We saw Tom Brady throw all over Atlanta last week. Dan Malin, in his hot takes article this week, wrote that no player is worth $9,000 or more in DFS, and there's Tyreek Hill sitting at $9K. Patrick Mahomes is $85, and Kelce is $85. They're expensive, but is this a spot where spending up for them does make sense?
I actually think it does. I mean, we can go over the whole concept of the tight end and whether or not it's worth it, but let's face facts. Having Kelce, Waller's on the Saturday slate. Right. So having Kelce in your lineup gives you a significant advantage over anybody else who's, fishing for, lower end tight ends. I mean, you could go that Cole Kmet route. You could go that. There's not even anybody, Mark Andrews has some possibilities at 5,700, but no, for me, it's I don't even. You can't even. Oh yeah, there's Kelce. Sorry, I was looking at my I have my lineup in there. I gotta always remember to get these guys out
in the
because
lineup. A little sneak peek there. He's already in the lineup, so you don't have to.
So all right, so yeah, so I mean, 8,500 for Kelsey versus 5,700 for Andrews. Like, here's the thing: we're not looking at a $9,000 running back. We're not trying to jam in, Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry into our lineup. So if you're paying $7,000 for your top running back, that actually helps. So if let's say you pay down for Jalen Hurts, you're not over investing too much in a running back there. So why wouldn't you take that advantage and go 8,500 for Kelsey and just have that significant advantage over everybody else who you're playing against?
Yeah.
And you still have room for Tyreek if you want to do a GPP stack. Tyreek for me has always been a GPP play. I've never really used him a lot in cash games. So, I mean, I'm fine using a Chief stack. I think, when it gets pricey like that, I think a lot of people can, usually turn to value. So you end up getting, a lower ownership rate than you probably should be getting. So, I mean, I hear what Malin's saying about no player being worth it because Derrick Henry for the first time, he didn't return value like that.
Yeah, the touchdown variance there, Tannehill ran in 2 and Darrington Evans got a score. So,
I mean,
unlucky production for a guy that had 140 yards and a score there in a smash spot. And to my argument with him there was Christian McCaffrey last year over at 10K. If you weren't using him, you were losing. So, there are certainly certain players that are worth the value. But you did mention, there isn't that big spend up at the running back spot. But you've been losing money these last few weeks if you weren't playing David Montgomery. He started his run down in the low 5Ks. He's now up to $7,700. Great matchup here against Jacksonville. 32 carries last week. They're really riding him. And, my question is, what took so damn long? You drafted him for a reason here, Nagy. Start featuring him in your offense. Jacksonville, not a great run D. He's the top price running back, I think of viable guys here. Is he somebody that, again, sort of fits a core build for you?
I think he definitely does fit a core build. I mean, the problem is that you worry about what Matt Nagy's going to do. Mm-hmm. Right now, they have been running him. 32 carries seemed a little bit excessive. Even for Montgomery,
they should be giving him the football. I mean,
they should, but give the guy 20 to 25 touches per game. Mm-hmm. Stop screwing around with the 11 carries and the 5 catches. Give him 20 carries a game. Let him catch 4 or 5 passes, and make him just that type of a running back. To sit there and swing it back and forth like that. Just seems like Nagy's getting a little too cute. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the wake-up call that he finally got, utilizing the ground game a lot more. I know that, Nagy's name always gets bandied around when you talk about coaches on the hot seat.
Right.
So I think that this is probably where it is. I mean, but it's fit the schedule. You look at the opponents that the Bears have been facing over the last couple of weeks, and I mean, it's you're talking about a Green Bay weak run defense. You're talking about a Detroit horrible run defense. So, I mean, I think Jacksonville obviously fits the bill there. You got a team that's, struggling for its identity right now. They don't know if they're going to go with Glennon or Minshew. Robinson's banged up for them. Their receivers haven't been, pulling in the ball the way they should. So I do think that this is a great spot to use Montgomery this week. And then, you've got enough names. There's plenty of value around on this slate to end up paying down and finding, somebody else that you want to kind of slide in there. Fournette's lower price. Or he's not even on this slate, but
he's on the
Melvin Gordon. Like, that's, it's so funny. Gordon was terrible against, and I wrote this up in the watch list. He was terrible the first time that they faced the Chargers.
Right.
And everyone was like, oh, revenge game narrative, this and that. But he had been coming, they said that it wasn't COVID related, but he had just been dealing for like 2 weeks with some illness. And he wasn't there. He wasn't present. I watched him this past week. It was a great matchup for him. This is one of those games where I feel like, the Chargers are home favorites right now. So gives me every reason to take Denver and gives me every reason to take Melvin Gordon. So, you pay down for Gordon at 56. You pair him up with Montgomery at 77. You pay down for Hurts. You find a value wide receiver there or two, and boom, you can get yourself Travis Kelce in there without flinching.
Yeah. What do you think about the Baltimore running backs this week? We have Dobbins now. He's had, I think it's like 4 or 5 straight games with a score. Edwards is significantly cheaper. Wasn't able to find the end zone last week, but still involved. And Mark Ingram was a healthy scratch. So we're finally getting rid of that three-headed monster in that backfield now. And we have a clearer picture of how they're going to be using those two backs. Obviously, Lamar still gets his work in as well. But any interest there, going home here against a Giants defense, which, they've been improving, but, against the run this year, they're still giving up some solid days against backs.
I do like Dobbins this week. I definitely do. I think he's a nice fit for the offense. And they are, what we're seeing with a lot of these young rookie running backs is they're finally starting to get, higher usage rates because they've got the fresh legs. They've learned the system. They've done well with that, and the coaches are rewarding them. It's kind of funny, though. Like, I would rather, to be honest, I'd rather pay down for David Johnson again. Like, I know he had a great week last week, and, while everybody might think that that's the trap, no, it's on the other side. It's Gio Bernard. That's the trap going up against Houston. David Johnson against Cincinnati, if there's no Duke Johnson in there or no CJ Procise, he's getting the work. And I'll tell you, man, if Deshaun Watson's like, ooh, hey, this guy's good for checkdowns, dude, I'll take that all day long. What do you have, 11 catches this past week?
Yeah, he had 11 catches on 11 targets. My one question regarding that is sort of the game flow here. Is Cincinnati going to put him in a position like they had to chase and score, like they did against the Colts last week? Is it going to be that type of game, or are they going to just be able to run the ball a little bit more? Johnson hasn't been great running the football, and if that volume of targets isn't going to be there because they don't need it against Cincinnati, I like him because of the spot. I don't know if we should be expecting 11 targets again. I think that's or more than 8 targets. I think that's a lot because I don't think the game's going to be as back and forth. But again, he was someone I was high on this year for that reason. Is one of his best skill sets is catching the football, and they weren't utilizing. So that was a little bit frustrating.
Even if he gets like 5 catches, I'm okay with that. Like, that's still, and he's going to get the football running against Cincinnati. I think that it's still, for the less risk of, Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, taking all the work from J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, Deshaun Watson likes to run one in every so often, but I still think that if they're going to give David Johnson, 15 to 20 carries in this game and just grind it out and get rid of Cincinnati, 4 or 5 catches out of him, that's still going to return a strong value at that price point.
Are you going to take the bait on Ito Smith being the lead back this week?
Why wouldn't you? It's against Kansas City, one of the worst run defenses in the world.
And he catches footballs, $4,000, Howard. Ito Smith is the flavor of the week in Atlanta.
We've got a couple of those, like Gio after this past week, Monday night. People are in on him. People are in on Ito Smith. People are starting to look at some of the Jags backs too, whether or not Ogunbowale is going to be worth some value. Divino Zigbo, forget it. I mean, I'm not doing that. First of all, Ito Smith, like, the dude fits in Darren Sproles' pocket. Right. So I mean, I'm sorry, unless you're gonna give me a reason to believe that Ant-Man is actually a successful football scheme here. I don't get it. I don't like it. Atlanta's never been good about running the football at all anyway. So why all of a sudden are they going to start now in a game that's likely to be a shootout? Because I think Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs need to kind of wake up a little bit and start doing some of that dominating that we've seen them do in the past, because teams are creeping up on them right now. I mean, not even saying Pittsburgh, but like even Cleveland. Like, Cleveland could all of a sudden turn around, grab that number 2 seed and push for that number 1 as well if they win outright this week.
Yeah, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see that. I just laugh because people are talking about Ito Smith already. And then the last running backs I think worth discussing, with Cam Akers being out, you have both Henderson and Brown under $5,000 this week against Seattle. Thoughts on either of those two?
I mean, throw a dart. Which one do you like more? Like, who's going to get Henderson will probably get more touches, but
Brown had 2 touchdowns against them.
Right. Is Brown going to end up in the end zone? Like, it's I mean, do me a favor, why don't you pick the 49ers running back that's gonna do well this week? Is it gonna be
Hopefully Wilson.
McKinnon, Coleman, Wilson?
Hopefully Wilson. Yeah. For some of my fantasy take, let's hope it's there. No, but I agree with you. Again, though, some good values you mentioned. You know, there are spots to spend down this week to help you pay up for some of those high priced guys. You touched upon Tyreek Hill already being $9,000, good for GPPs. You know, the rest of sort of that tier above 7K, though, is still pretty strong. You have, you know, Allen Robinson against Jacksonville. We talked about how much they're running that football, but he's still getting a solid volume of work. Calvin Ridley, you know, in that matchup against KC, $8,500 is going to get a lot of work. You know, if you're sort of looking at this top tier, and I know you have some of these guys already in your watch list, you know, who is it that sort of jumps out to you more?
I mean, Robinson jumps out the most. You know, Metcalf's going to end up with a lot of Jalen Ramsey. Ridley's fine. I think Ridley's a great option here, but I mean, for 500 more, I'll just pay up for Tyreek, who's just in a better spot. I mean, Kansas City's coverage has been pretty solid. I mean, I don't think Bashaud Breeland is going to be the answer to solving Calvin Ridley. However, I do feel like you know, he's going to draw the extra coverage. He's going to draw the extra attention. So Tyreek for me up top, then Allen Robinson. I'll take a look at Keenan Allen as long as he's healthy and he's not limited.
Right.
You know, because I think he's Justin Herbert's security blanket. And if Denver's keeping this game close, and I do feel like Denver could keep this game close, then they're going to need to rely heavily on Allen. And then Robert Woods at 7,000 on DK.
Is it surprising to you to see Woods more expensive than Kupp this week when it's been flipped for most of the year?
No, not really. I think Seattle handles the slot receiver a little bit better than they do handle the outside. I just think that, you know, Woods is a guy who can be just a little bit more explosive. Kupp moving the chains. I think either one of these guys are fine. But it doesn't really surprise me all that much, just based on the matchup here against Seattle.
Which of the Houston Texan wide receivers do you trust this week? Whether it be Cooks, obviously at 62, you have Kute at 54, but Hanson still found the end zone last week as well, even though the volume wasn't nearly as high. He's 4,400.
I mean, the coverage just broke down. I don't know if you saw that touchdown that Hanson.
He was wide.
There was nobody near him, like nobody near him. So I feel like that was just more of an oops than anything else. You know, I think that with regard to Cincinnati, you know, I do think that Kute is probably the guy who I would look to more. I've just never been a huge Brandon Cooks guy. I know you and I have had this argument before.
We've had this conversation a lot.
We've had it before. You're like, it's 1,000 yards.
And he's going to be on pace for 1,000 yards again this year. But
right, of course. But I mean, is there anything about Cooks's game that, you know, you're like, wow, oh, this is great?
I think he's good for cash games. I think he's going to give you 10 to 15 fantasy points as a minimum. And if he can find the end zone, which he's only done 3 times this year, but if he can get that touchdown pass, it puts you over the top. So, you know, Kute for GBP is probably, but I think Cooks is fine in a cash game.
Okay.
You agree? We didn't touch on Baker at quarterback, but this is your Jets here. You know, and Higgins for me, I know Landry's expensive, but why is Higgins still so cheap? He's under $5,000 on DraftKings.
Because all the good passes are going to Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Is that your dartboard play of the week?
That's my dart throw of the week. No doubt about it. I think Higgins he's been great. You know, Landry has been a nice little bread and butter guy for Baker Mayfield. Higgins is, you know, he's like a steady. Higgins to me, almost like Cooks. You know, you think you can get like 15 points out of him and feel good about it. You know, I don't see him having trouble getting into the end zone. But I mean, I don't even know where Peoples-Jones is on this.
He's $3,700.
3,700. Yeah. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. I'm in on that one. I'm in on him, and I'm in on Hooper in this matchup against the Jets.
Do your Jets win a second game this week, or you know what? Because at this point, well, what's the point, right? Like, you know, why even keep losing? Because Jamison Crowder is $4,500 and he had 8 targets last week. So, if you wanted to do a mini game stack there and get someone coming back on the Jets, I mean, gotta love that volume at least.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's a good volume play there for Darnold, and he'll keep hitting Jamison Crowder. I mean, that's that's your you always talk about volume, volume, volume.
Yep.
Crowder's the guy to do it. I mean, I don't listen. I think that what I think a lot of people are misunderstanding, or maybe Jets fans aren't putting it out enough, is the fact that what else are they going to do? We know that they're not firing Gase until after the season.
Mm-hmm.
Gase is going to coach these games because he wants to win the games. He knows they're looking at Trevor Lawrence. He doesn't give a crap about Trevor Lawrence because he knows he's not going to be here next year. So he's not going to tank games on purpose. And these players all play with pride. They all have that sense of pride. Nobody wants to be on an 0-16 team. It doesn't matter if you're a free agent and you're going to be going to another team elsewhere. You don't want to lose, and that's their competitive nature. If the Jets fans want to blame anybody on this, all right, you can blame the Jets organization for not firing Gase and mandating that your coach, whoever comes in, plays nothing but backups. Mm-hmm. You could do that, but
I thought that was sort of the play close but lose, game plan after what we saw out of the Raiders, right?
But do that without Gase then.
Right.
Like, just set it up and do it that way, because Gase, again, he is going to coach for wins. And that's just that. I mean, above all, it's the Rams' fault. It's Sean McVay's fault.
It is.
All right.
My Unleash the Fury on Monday's Alarm After Hours was F.U. Sean McVay for the third straight week. The prior 2 weeks was from keeping Cam Akers from us to this point in the season. But then it was, for me, investing in the Rams and DFS and betting on them this past week. So McVay is just royally screwing me this season.
Did not have his team prepared for this game at all. Whether they want to say they were looking ahead to Seattle or not, irrelevant. They should have won the game. And that's just bottom line. So Jets fans can sit there and cry all they want, but the bottom line is that you got to look to the Rams as far as this goes. The Rams screwed the Jets by not showing up for this game.
Right.
Baker Mayfield and the Browns, they're showing up for this game. And I'll even use Nick Chubb. I know he's expensive. He's the second highest priced running back on the slate. And we can talk about how you don't run on the Jets. You don't run on the Jets. Well, Quinnen Williams, he's out for this week. I'll tell you what, Nick Chubb's going to run on these Jets. And I think it's just we see it all the time with Baker Mayfield. When is he at his best? He's at his best when play action is working.
Yeah.
And he can just kind of settle into the pocket. And that's just, I think that's been something that we're going to see. That's why, I'll do it, man. I'll stack up Browns. Give me Baker, give me Chubb, give me Donovan Peoples-Jones to save a couple of bucks there. I'll take Crowder coming back just to save a few there. Boom.
There it is.
Fit me some Tyreek and some Kelsey.
The same price as Donovan Peoples-Jones. I would go back to Laviska Shenault. Even if Robinson's not there, Shenault lines up at running back every now and again for certain formations. He's $3,700 still there also. I've been a big fan of his. I think once they get a new quarterback, Trevor Lawrence next year, Shenault's going to have himself quite a season. Let's wrap this up and we'll move to the tight end position. We talked about Kelsey already and Andrews. Top of the tier for sure. What's your feelings with Logan Thomas, though? 15 targets last week against Seattle. Now he gets Carolina, who's also struggled against the tight end this year.
He's fine. Am I going to trust in that many targets from Dwayne Haskins? I don't even know if Dwayne Haskins is going to play.
You know that today they took away his captain spot? Why did they wait till today? Yeah. They made an announcement today that he was no longer considered an offensive team captain. Shouldn't that have been when he was benched for not showing up to meetings and putting in the work like 9 weeks ago? Why are we waiting till today when he's at a strip club over the weekend after a loss to take away that offensive team captain spot? So when you think maybe the Washington football team is riding the ship, they're still having some questionable decision making there.
Yeah, they definitely are. Listen, I'll look at Thomas. That's fine. It depends on where I'm at with a GPP lineup. But again, I'm having a hard time just not paying up for Kelsey. I even paid for Andrews last week, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, 60 some odd yards and a touchdown is fine. It was a decent return on the investment, but again, Kelsey, that's where it goes. So I mean, if you're paying down, I mean, Thomas is okay. Noah Fant is fine.
I was going to ask you, would you do double tight ends using Kelsey, and then instead of maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones, use Austin Hooper at 3,500?
Yeah, I could definitely do that too. I wouldn't mind doing that. I think Austin Hooper's in a great spot here against the Jets as well.
Yeah.
And he like all of a sudden, I mean, not all of a sudden, but they eased him back after the appendectomy, and he got 7 targets last week. So right. I think they're primed and ready to get back on the horse there. Hooper's a guy who I wouldn't mind. Jordan Akins, I think, is in a good spot here as well.
Back-to-back 6 games and 6 targets. So finally getting some work there.
Yeah. And if you're looking for like a real dart, I think the lowest I would probably go for a dart is Tyler Eifert. Like fighting back the bile. Even just saying his name, but Eifert's getting targets here, and it doesn't matter if it's Glennon or if it's Minshew. He's still seeing the targets, and he's getting those red zone looks. So if you want to chase that touchdown for a cheap tight end, you might want to look there.
Yeah, I'll spare you the Cole Kmet this week and just move on from that one. Touch upon defenses real quick. There's some obvious spend up choices. You have the Ravens at home against the Giants. You have the Browns against the Jets. Typically we do like Pittsburgh at home, but their defense lately we saw last week wasn't that good. Where are you really focusing your defensive plays on this week?
Washington football team right down there at $3,000 on DraftKings. I think that's a great spot to be. Obviously I'll look at the Texans again, especially if Ryan Finley is going to be, the guy that they want over there. I think that's probably the cheapest that I would go. I mean, while I think the Broncos could keep this game super close against the Chargers, their whole secondary is banged up, and I'm just not going to watch Justin Herbert, throw 3 touchdown passes on them, in the blink of an eye. So, yeah, I think really the Texans is probably the lowest that I'll go at 2,800.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair bet. I was gonna just tempt you with the Jets, but $2,000. Yeah, no, you're already against them.
There's no temptation.
New defensive coordinator. They put a lot of pressure on Goff last week, so who knows? But
their best defensive player is out this week.
I get it. I understand.
Do you though? Do you? Because it seems like you don't.
Well, I always like to ask you what the Jets are doing. I'm just thankful the Patriots aren't on this slate. They get another primetime game to lose in front of the country, so it'll be fantastic to have that one go down. But Howard, let's go ahead here. You're going to continue to update this throughout the week as you always do with the watch list. You mentioned already that we'll have playbooks available for the Saturday slate. We're going to do the showdown slate. We're still going to have content on Sunday with the live stream with you and Jen from 11 to 12. We're going to do all the good stuff there. We'll have our DFS podcast, of course, come out on Friday for everybody also to listen to and get ready for the season. But any final thoughts here before we end today's stream?
Just keep doing the research, people. Like, that's the thing. And I've said this on the seasonal side as well. I get it. It's Christmas. It's Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Day. You want to spend some time with family. But this is the prime opportunity for you to take advantage of other people not putting in the work, other people who aren't mining for value, other people who are, happy just, sitting there and hanging out with, friends and family, sipping on the eggnog, shoveling grandma's driveway, whatever it is that you want to do on Christmas, that's fine. If you're not putting in the work, though, then don't play. Like, that's the thing about DFS. If you're just, if you're worried about not knowing anybody about what to do on the showdown slate on Friday, don't play it. You want to have some fun on Saturday. It's the day after Christmas. Just make sure you're up early in the morning and you're doing the research that you need to do. Because I think that's where you're going to end up hitting the best when you start playing some of these single entry GPPs. Some people are going to be throwing away their money. You can be smart about it and make sure that you're getting all the work done and following the same process that you've been following throughout the season, which has been a very lucrative season for FA Nation.
It definitely has been that. But that wraps it up for today, everybody. Of course, Howard Bender, you know where to get him. He's the king of answering all of your Twitter questions at RotoBuzzGuy, and get me on Twitter at JMPema77. We'll catch you guys next time.